Well, thank you, Writers Workout, for having me here today to present some tips for busy writers. My name is Essie Reed, and I'm an author, and I write pretty prolifically, so I think that's why they asked me to do this presentation. So hopefully some of my tips can help you in your journey as a writer, as an author, and so let's jump in. Okay, so I thought first I would say a little bit about me so that you can understand, why I would be the right person to talk about some tips for busy writers. So in my personal life, I work full-time. I am married with 3 school-age kids. Yep, I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary school student. So that's 3 different schools. It's busy. And a spouse, so who also works full-time. We have a dog, so that means taking the dog for walks. In my free time, I like to cook, I like to listen to music, and obviously I like to write. I have written 13 full-length novels and over 50 short stories. Not all of my books have been published. That's okay. Not all of your work will get published. It's always our goal to get as much published as we can as an author. And so it's just about working at it. I actually have 7 books that are signed to contracts that will be coming out over the next few years. So that means I'm very busy with editing and working with publishers and lots of stuff. So, okay, enough about me. Now you know why they asked me to do this presentation, because I'm pretty busy. But with that said, what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you. I'm not an expert at anything, but I can tell you what works for me, and you can see if you want to implement that into your own life, your own routine. So you can pick and choose what you want from this, and hopefully some of it works. Okay, so today I have 4 topics that I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about writing routines, writing goals, how to minimize distractions, and making to-do lists. So the first topic is writing routines. So what is your writing routine? I think it's important to identify what your current routine is if you are looking to maybe improve upon the volume of work that you're doing, or you just want to feel like your time writing is more successful, that you can get more words on the page during your writing sessions. So understanding what your current routine is key. So do you have a daily routine? Do you have a weekly, a monthly, an annual thing that you do? So we'll talk about my routine. And really what it boils down to is time management. So there you go. Routine is all about time management. So I thought I'd share with you what my daily schedule looks like. Now, not every day is the same. I don't work 7 days a week. I work 5 days a week. But on average, my day looks a little something like this. I wake up at 5:30 every day, and I know for some of you that's a stretch, or for some of you, you might get up earlier than that. For me, it works because then I have time in the morning. I have to get my kids to school and get myself to work by 8:30. Now, I do not write in the morning. That it just doesn't work for me. But I do other writing related activities. So I think that doing research is important when you're writing, in order to sound and to feel knowledgeable enough on a subject, so that you can tell a cohesive story. It's important to do your fact finding, to take copious amounts of notes on a subject or a location. And so I like to use my morning time when I'm up and drinking my coffee to do research. So for me, I like to read some news articles on whatever subject that I'm working on or writing about, and take notes. So I have several notebooks that I keep around the house, so that I can take notes when I come across something. And I also will use that time if I'm not doing research in the morning. I might jot down some plot points or some ideas that I've had. Again, I don't have time to sit and write full paragraphs and sentences in the morning, or to think or focus on editing, but just getting down some basic things helps me, so that when I come home from work and I am ready to write, I have information ready to go, stuff that I'm able to work on. So again, I mentioned that I work full time. So I go to work at 8:30, and I typically get off work and pick up kids or whatnot and get home by 5:30 every night. And then I go to bed around 10:30. I do not stay up very late since I get up early. So my writing time, where I have found the most success, is writing in the evenings. I feel fortunate that my kids are at the age where they can really sort of help out and take care of themselves a lot. They don't need me. I'm not changing diapers anymore. But I have my kids on a pretty good routine. So I think that's part of it, how it works in our household, which gives me the ability to have block time to write, is we've got our dinner down to, we have dinner at the same time every night. We do homework with the kids at the same time every night. We do bedtime routine at the same time every night. And I think that has helped them to feel, secure and safe and successful in their own little lives. And it definitely has helped me to have that time so that I can write. I try to write for about 2 hours a night, but it depends on the day of the week. So, and I'll get to that a little bit further with talking about distractions. But, writing for me can't be my end all be all my entire life. It's definitely, it's who I am, but it's not everything that I am. So for you as an author, your schedule will dictate when you can write. So sitting down and coming up with a realistic a schedule that you can keep, and within your family unit or your personal unit, whoever you're with in your household, and being open and honest with that group of people. So we have sat down and I have explained to my spouse and my children that writing is important to me, and it's something I'm going to do every day. So that's how we came up with a routine that worked for our family. And yours is going to be, it's going to be different. It's going to be based on what your schedule can dictate. So maybe for you, the writing in the morning. Maybe you don't start work until 10 a.m. every day. And so for you, if you got up at 5:30, you could have 2 hours of time dedicated to writing. Again, it's going to look different for every person. And also on the weekends, it looks different for me. So on the weekends, I try to write for at least 4 hours a day on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. And that is what my weekly looks like. So if I can do 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 4 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday, then I can pretty well accomplish whatever project I'm working on. And so that will go to our next topic, which is goals. So I have to have goals set up to keep me moving forward with whatever projects I'm working on. Because if I sat down and wrote for 2 hours every day and then 4 hours on the weekend without sort of an end game in mind, it can be very easy to get distracted and to let that time go to waste. And I look at it as if I'm going to take time away from my other hobbies, my family, my pet, my other things, then I'm not being the most successful version of myself as an author, and that time can never come back. So I don't want to waste it. I don't want to sit and stare at a blank screen on my computer or a blank notebook in my lap for 2 hours. That would be very unproductive. So for me, having specific goals in place allows me to make the most out of my time. And I think if you are not currently writing with specific goals in mind, this could be the number one tip that I have for you, is setting up and establishing some realistic goals. And what do I mean by realistic? I mean goals that you can actually achieve in a set period of time that is not going to overwhelm you as a human being. So it would be an unrealistic goal to say, I'm going to write 100,000 word book in 30 days. That's not physically possible for me. My routine, my daily and weekly writing routine would not allow, and the words per minute and the functionality of my brain, I could never write 100,000 words in 1 month. And if I did, it would be garbage. So what would the point be of setting myself up to fail at a goal? So I try to put realistic goals. And by realistic, it is things that I can achieve in a set amount of time. But I don't beat myself up over it if I don't actually reach that goal. I give myself grace. I say, hey, life happens. Things can pop up, and maybe I didn't finish that story at the end of the week as I wanted to, but I'm close. So I'm just gonna, it's a personal goal anyways. So I'm just gonna push it out another week. And, maybe I had set a little prize for myself that if I had finished it by a certain date, I was going to take the family out for dinner to celebrate. Well, maybe instead of doing that then, maybe I still do it, but I just move it out a week. Or maybe I tweak it. Instead of, going to a fancy restaurant, we get drive-through. I don't know. I try to give myself grace. I try to set up some goals that are realistic, because I like to feel like I've achieved something and accomplish things. And again, that works for me. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. Another thing I think with goals, especially once you sign with an agent or you sign with a publisher, is you are going to have timelines that you are expected to reach in a certain amount of time. So, for example, I've got 3 books in editing with 3 different publishers right now. And each publisher has their own timeline on when things have to get back to them. So it's about prioritizing. And for editing, I know the speed at which I can edit certain things. And I know the quality, or I know the books, and how much maybe I put into editing them before they went off to the publishers. So I try to set some goals, and I try to set those goals. Now, I know if I have an edit package due back to my publisher, let's say April 1st, I try to set my personal goal to finishing it at least a week, if not 2 weeks, before the publishing due date, because you want to build yourself some space in that. So in case you have a family emergency, a medical emergency, things in life just come up and you're not able to complete it in time, you've given yourself a buffer to reach that. And also you can build in some days for fun. I mean, everybody needs to have a break. Otherwise you can burn out. So something that I do that I think is helpful, because I like to track my writing data. And what do I mean by that? So I like to know when I write the most. What days of the week do I have higher word counts than others? I think that it helps me modify my daily, my weekly, my monthly writing goals, and it allows me to understand when I'm most productive. So I use something called a writing tracking sheet or a goal tracking sheet, and sometimes I handwrite them, sometimes I put it into a spreadsheet to calculate it for me, but this is basically what it looks like. So whenever I start a new project, I start a new tracking sheet, and I put in my starting word count, the ending word count, and then I put what my daily total words written were for that day. And if I skip a date, then I just don't put that date in. I don't have a whole line of zeros that go across. I just put the dates that I actually write. And then I have a running goal, or I have a running total. And I align that with what my goal is. And so, I mean, there's no reason for doing this. It's not like my publisher is asking me to turn in what my daily word counts are. No, but for me to be able to look at something and to see, oh, it looks like every Monday I am always writing over 1,000 words. And then I can think to myself, oh, well, yeah, that's because, there's no sports events for my kids that night. And they all have their favorite show. So everybody sort of goes to their rooms early that night. And so I am more productive. I have more time, or whatever it might be. So then I will tweak what I'm doing in order to get the most, to maximize my time during those more productive days. So something that I noticed is that about every other Sunday, I was having little to no words written, even though I told you I try to write for about 4 hours each day on the weekend. Well, it's not sustainable to work full time, raise a full time family, write every single day, and not have a day off. And so now, every other Sunday, I try to completely disconnect. I don't try not to go on socials. I probably don't write a whole lot. Try not to check emails. And a lot of times I take a nap or I lay in bed and I watch a bunch of movies. But it's time that I need. But I figured that out by watching my writing, looking at my tracking sheet and seeing what days I was most productive. And that kind of goes into my next topic with minimizing distractions. So, this is really hard. People want to distract you when you're writing if you live in a home with other people. Even if you don't, if you live in a home by yourself, your cell phone is the number one distractor. I'd say television is probably a number two. And I don't think that anyone does it intentionally. We don't want to be distracted from our writing. But it's easy, our brains are moving so fast as we're writing, or we'll get stuck. We'll get stuck on a scene, stuck on some dialogue, and it's easy just to grab your phone and start scrolling through social media. Or if you still have your app notifications on, that can be very distracting. You could be deep into a scene and really chugging along, and then ping, 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 your phone's going off. And it's our nature as humans. We're inquisitive. You want to look and see who's messaging me. Maybe it's an agent. Maybe it's my publisher. Maybe it's, I don't know, I won the lottery. I mean, I don't think your phone would ping you for that, but so I have turned off the notifications on my phone. I also use the Do Not Disturb feature frequently so that I can stay focused. And I also set some mental guidelines. So I know if I'm online on a Friday night or Saturday night and I'm writing or I'm whatever, I'm more likely to be more social. And that's okay. I've given myself a free pass for that. But there's definitely other times where I just have to buckle down and I'm working on something and I don't want to be disturbed. So I schedule that. I know I don't want to be, disturbed. So I turn off my notifications. I put my phone away. I put my headphones on because for me, music will help tune out the other sounds that are in my house. I don't want to listen to my kids screaming or yelling or playing Mario in the other room. And I don't want to listen to my dog barking. So I'll put on headphones, and that helps me focus and it helps me tune out everything else so that I can focus. So another thing with minimizing distractions, and it ties into the setting the goals, setting a block of time. I think when you mentally tell yourself, okay, I am going to write for the next 30 minutes uninterrupted. I'm not going to allow anything in my peripheral vision to take me away from what I'm doing. And so some people call that sprints. Some people, I don't know the other names for it. But you just sit down with a block of time and just write. That can be very helpful to get thoughts out, words on the page, help build content. So another trick that I do to help minimize distractions is I work on multiple projects at the same time. I never have just one. And the reason I'm talking about this in distractions is because as I'm working on a story, whether it's a short story or a book, my brain tends to think of a lot of other things at the same time. And no, I don't have, ADHD or anything like that. But I just think that that's how the human brain works. It's just firing all the time on lots of different levels. And so for me, if I can work between multiple projects at the same time, it can keep my brain focused in more manageable chunks. Now, not every writer is like that. I have friends who they can only focus on one project at a time, and that is what they have to do. But they might not be writing on that one project the whole time. They are making sheets about each character, and they're diving really deep down the rabbit hole of explaining who these characters are. Now, that stuff might never make it to the page of their book, but it helps keep them focused, and it helps minimize their brain floating off into 12 other locations. They really embrace what they're working on and all these things. Where for me, I don't go into, I have some books that I definitely have, full page character outlines and notes and side stories and all this other stuff that go with it. That's not typically what I do. That's, I guess, more for my fantasy and sci-fi, the world building books that I do. Those ones need more backstory than the contemporary. So again, minimizing those distractions, be it the ones in your brain or the ones on your cell phone. And then giving yourself the grace. There are nights I have favorite TV shows and I'm not going to write. I'm sorry. I like to watch Survivor every Wednesday night. So I put my computer away, my notebooks away, and I watch my darn show and I love it. And that makes me happy. Other stuff I record and I'll watch it when I want to. But there are, so giving yourself the ability to build in those distractions so that it's not an actual distraction. And then the last tip that I have for all of you busy writers out there is making a to-do list. So I'm sure most of you make little to-do lists in your day-to-day life. Your grocery list. We're writers after all, so you should be writing, making lists, checking them twice. But making to-do lists for your novel. And also making to-do lists for your day-to-day life. If you aren't already, start doing this. It's very satisfying to cross things off as you do them. And you'll start noticing patterns, and you'll be able to organize your daily schedule and your daily life a little better when you are more thoughtful about the things that you're doing. It's setting the intention for the day. So I like to, in the morning, as I'm doing research or taking notes, I will put together a little to-do list. So if I know I have to go to the grocery store, or I need to do laundry, or this or that, I mentally prepare myself, I put it on my list, and then when it comes time for that, I'm just prepared to do it. It doesn't surprise me, and then I'm thrown off. I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean I have this and that to do? It's just about being intentional with your day and managing your time so that you have more time to write. And okay, that is the end of my presentation. That's the 30 minutes that I was allotted. So I would like to thank you for taking time to listen to me ramble on about time management, um, because I know that you're very busy, and so I do really appreciate your time today. Um, Make sure that you follow me wherever I am, which is Twitter and sometimes TikTok, and I have a website. And I like to hang out on the Writers Workout Discord, and I'm helping host writing sprints on the Discord a couple times a week. So you can join me there and learn how to write fast. And I just wanted to share, I've got, these are my first book that came out, My Heart is Hurting, last summer, and then I've got 2 books coming out this summer. Old Palmetto Drive comes out in June with Wild Ink Publishing, and The Darkness of Dying in the Light comes out in August with Conquest Publishing. So be on the lookout for those, and if you haven't already read My Heart is Hurting, it is available right now anywhere books are sold. So thank you so much again for your time today, and I hope you learned some tips for managing your time. Thanks. Bye.